Welcome to Home Business TV. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Over 80% of small businesses have only one employee, the owner. Does that sound like your home-based business? That's why it's more important than ever for entrepreneurs to protect their personal finances. Let's say hello to Laura Adams, best-selling author of Money-Smart Solopreneur, a personal finance system for freelancers, entrepreneurs, and side hustlers. How's it going today, Laura Adams?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. Laura's been featured on most all major news outlets, including ABC, Bloomberg, CBS, Fox, The Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and too many to list. And she hosts the top-rated Money Girl podcast. Laura Adams, let's get to know you better. How did you come up with that term, Money Girl?
Yeah, the podcast is part of a network, and so it was kind of a group decision. Originally called Money Girls: Quick and Dirty Tips for a Richer Life. That seemed a little long,
That's
so
kind of catchy.
We shortened it to Money Girl.
Cool. Now you've also gotten a lot of books out besides the current one.
I do. So the podcast is something that is a part of the Macmillan Publishing world. They started the Quick and Dirty Tips Network, which is this podcasting network that I'm a part of. And so they were kind enough to allow me to begin publishing. This was way back in, I started podcasting in 2008. And so I've just completed my 825th episode. So I've been doing this a while, but the platform really allowed us to also get into the literary world. So we started out with audiobooks in, I guess it was 2010, and then did paperback books. I have an award-winning paperback book, Money Girl, Smart Moves to Grow Rich. And I've done a bunch of different books, but my latest one is Money-Smart Solopreneur. Over time, I kind of realized that I had a lot of small business owners in my audience that were really trying to branch out, make extra money, do side gigs, start their own businesses, and they had a lot of questions. So I thought, wow, this might be a really good book to do. So that was my latest title, and it's been a fun group because I'm a small business owner. I love talking to other small business owners, and it's a really, I think, engaged group of folks. They really want to grow their business, but they also want to grow their personal finances. So we kind of merge the personal and the small business together, and helping them grow not only their revenue in the business, but growing wealth for their future as well.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit more. But first, I forgot to mention you live in Vero Beach. You coming from Vero Beach, Florida?
That's right. I am here in hot, humid Vero Beach. Beautiful place. I've been here about 4 years and just love it. I lived in Florida for many years and then went cross country to California. I worked in the Bay Area for several years, and then was in Austin, Texas for several years, and then made my way back to Florida. So yeah, I'm really enjoying being here. And it's,
Sounds like you like hot weather, warm weather
it,
too. So
it's,
you're
it's,
not
you have to love the warm weather, and you have to love
that's
the
for sure.
humidity too. But
I've
I'm
been to
used to
Vero
it.
Beach many times. Beautiful place. So let's dig into the main focus with solopreneurs. First of all, why do so many solopreneurs neglect the well-being of their personal finances? Is it because they maybe get a myopic focus on business building and neglect this?
I do. I think that's exactly it, Richard. I think that when you're starting a business, especially when it's just you and you're wearing all the hats, you get a little overwhelmed with everything day to day. You're just trying to keep up with finding new clients or perfecting your product or whatever it is you're doing, and building your revenue. And then all of a sudden you look up and you realize, wow, I haven't been doing all the things that I really need to be doing to save for my future, to make sure my finances are protected, et cetera. So I do think we just get really laser focused on the actual growth of the business. And that's great. You do have to do that in the beginning. There's no getting around it. But we also in parallel have to make sure that we're not neglecting the personal side of our finances, because otherwise a lot of time goes by and you'll realize that you're a little behind on where you should be. And then it gets even more challenging to get caught up.
Right.
If you neglect yourself, neglect your savings, neglect your investments for years. So we want to make sure that we're at least keeping up with, where we should be, some kind
Yeah,
of
you lose
benchmarks.
that time value of money too, where if you just postpone and postpone it, next thing you know, there's like 10 years has gone by. You lose that value of time in building wealth. One other point I was thinking of is a lot of entrepreneurs might neglect it because if they think if they just work harder, they'll have more money, and then they don't have to worry about their personal finances and their plan. I don't know.
Yep, a lot of people do that. They say one day when that big client comes or I get that big bonus or whatever it is, then I'll start investing. And I've been that's happened to me too. I've had that feeling.
Yeah.
But what you learn is that it's really better to do a little bit more regularly than to say, "Oh, I'll do it next year when I get that, that big payday comes," because it may come, but it may also not come. So it is something that I do think it's a fallacy for a lot of folks to say, "I'm just going to put that off because I know I'm going to make more later." Well, hopefully you will, but let's not bank on that.
All right. Is it safe to say that you view retirement accounts as integral to building a secure financial future?
No doubt. There is no doubt. And I love retirement accounts because they're tax efficient. So you're either saving taxes this year, which most entrepreneurs want to do, or you're able to say, you know what, I'm going to pay tax on the contributions, but when I get to take those withdrawals in retirement, they will be tax free. So that's the difference between traditional and Roth accounts. And now we as entrepreneurs have more choices. We've got more of an ability to choose Roth accounts for ourselves in whether we choose a SEP IRA or a solo 401k. New laws have made Roths more available to entrepreneurs. So that's a really great thing. I'm a big fan of Roth because I like the idea of not having to pay taxes in the future when, tax rates are likely to go up down the road. So if we can get away with paying tax today at a lower rate and then not having to pay tax in the future, that's a really nice situation to be in.
Yeah, it seems like you just got to step back and give it some thought and see where you're going. And like some of the things we talk about require more of a long-term focus, where people just get tied up in the day-to-day and they forget about, long-term tax benefits and things like that until it finally hits. You also talk about one other thing, which is insurance, keeping that into the financial mix. I don't see that always brought in, and I think it's neglected. What is a big challenge with insurance, be it health or life, in your personal benefits plan?
Yeah, there's so many insurance products that we need as solopreneurs. Certainly, health is critical. If you don't have health, you're going to really put your finances in jeopardy. If you have some kind of an accident or an illness, it really could devastate your finances. So, at a minimum, have a catastrophic plan that would be there for you if you had a major illness. But so, getting the best health coverage that you can, it's not easy. You do have to shop around, whether you're going on the marketplace. The Affordable Care Act marketplace offers plans. They're not cheap. There's no doubt health
Right.
insurance is expensive. There are other options. If you want to do a non-qualified plan, you can. It's not against the law. You can have a plan that is not qualified. And what that means is it doesn't have, let's say, lifetime coverage for you. It may have
Right.
qualifications on your health, those sorts of things. So it may not be as comprehensive as a marketplace plan, but it may be cheaper. And so that may be a great alternative for folks who are, just getting started and can't afford much. Life insurance, critical if you have folks who depend on you. Certainly, if you've got a business in your home that is you're dealing with inventory or you've got expensive computer equipment, you likely need some type of business insurance as well. Remember that if, let's say, your home or your rental were devastated in a fire, some of your property that is business related may not be something that you can claim on that particular home or renter's policy. So really thinking about the property that you have that is business related may need to be insured separately. and liability is important if you have customers that come to your home. So thinking about all these things, it always pays off to have a good conversation with an insurance specialist who maybe understands the type of business that you're in, and they can give you some guidance on how to fill any insurance gaps in your overall plan.
Okay, I see. Now you're just saying for insurance, you need insurance so you're insured. In that it's not necessarily a way to build wealth, but it's a way to prevent losing a lot of wealth if something happens to you, and how your descendants and costs that could happen, along with making sure you have healthcare. So it ties in, I guess, just because of the cost of that, and you need to factor that in. And like, what are some of the other like nuts and bolts? Kind of getting into what are some ways to create what you call a self-employed benefits package?
Yeah, so every package definitely needs a retirement plan. It's kind of like if you had a job at a big company, what are the benefits they would offer you? Well, they would offer you retirement. They would certainly offer you some level of life insurance, likely disability. This is another policy that a lot of self-employed people kind of forget. It is really important to think about how you would pay your bills if you had an accident and you couldn't work for a period, whether that's a short period or a longer extended period, remembering that health insurance is not going to pay your bills if you get into an accident. So the disability policy is definitely a part of that package that you want to think about.
Excuse me for asking a dumb question, which I do a lot. So as a solopreneur, you can actually get disability insurance?
Absolutely. You can purchase it as an individual, whether you're self-employed or not, and you can have multiple policies. So maybe you get a small policy through your 9 to 5 job. You can get an additional policy if you're not getting enough at work, or you say, you know what, I'm going to create a side business, you can have a second policy. Same with life insurance. A lot of companies give a small amount of coverage. You can purchase more on your own as an individual. So you want to shop around. There are a lot of different companies out there offering it. So make sure you're getting, a good quality company at the lowest price that you can find.
Well, it's all about jumping into the pool. Are there any first steps you can recommend to start shoring up your personal finances with a benefit plan? How do we get
Yes.
started?
So I would say, the first part in my mind of a benefits package is thinking about sort of a insurance. How are you insuring yourself? And that's really an emergency fund. So if you've got savings for your business, that's fantastic. You also need to think about personal savings. So what do you have as cash in the bank that could get you through maybe a rough month in your business if revenue is lower than expected, or you have an unexpected large expense? Maybe it's a medical bill that isn't 100% covered by your health insurance, or a trip you need to take at the last minute. Thinking about, could I cover that? And a lot of folks have companies that have very variable income. It's going to vary extremely from month to month. So, making sure you can smooth that out with some savings in the bank, either on the business side, but also on the personal side as well. So get some savings in the bank. Once you're there, then I think you're in a great place to begin investing for retirement. And start small. You can always increase that savings amount annually. So maybe that means opening up a solo 401k. If you're a solopreneur, you can have a spouse working with you, or even some part-time employees, but you have to be the only full-time employee in your business to have a solo 401k. If you have folks in your business, if you've got employees, you may qualify for a SEP IRA. So those are two great options to do a little investigating on. I love them because they have high contribution limits. With an IRA, you are limited to about $7,000 a year, or $8,000 if you're over 50. But with a self-employed plan, you can put in much, much more depending on your income. So I'd like folks to have an IRA, but also think about a self-employed plan for those years when you're doing well, and you can really invest more than $7,000 or $8,000 a year.
Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more down the road on the stage of the startup you're in, but it sounds like you recommend, as soon as you're have jumped into the pool here as an entrepreneur, and you need to also be investing in these plans, at least getting started, and not put that off. Make that part of your startup.
That's right. And it can be confusing where to go. There are a lot of platforms. I recommend just an online investing platform. I work with a company called finder.com. They're a great place to compare. So you can go there and see, okay, where can I open an IRA? Where can I open a solo 401k? You can kind of compare and contrast based on your needs. So finding out the account you want, going ahead and opening it up. In a lot of cases, it can be opened with literally $50. You don't have to start with much, and then get in the habit of using it and contributing to it, whether it's weekly or monthly on some cadence that works for you.
So it sounds like a kind of a first step is to start contrasting like the finder.com website and seeing what's out there, and then be prepared to make some small investments. Kind of another challenge here, not having enough time, which seems to be the siren song of entrepreneurs. Any advice on ways to keep your benefit plan easy to administer time-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recommend consolidating everything you can. So for instance, you might want to have your savings, your business checking, and your investment company all in one. If you have one platform, one investment platform that's also got some high yield savings options, just kind of consolidates everything, and so you don't have multiple accounts to have to look at. Likewise, maybe look at using one insurance broker or going to one insurance site to get all of your comparisons. So kind of just minimizing the number of accounts that you have to look at and monitor, I think, can save a lot of time.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of like hedge their bet, spread their bets around, different financial, different insurance. But I think that's wise advice to, find one person or, entity you're comfortable with. And I think it'll make it a lot simpler in the long term.
Yeah, it really does. And you don't think about the time that it takes to switch back and forth and check different accounts, but that's mental bandwidth that you could be spending on other things. Likewise, I always recommend solopreneurs use a tax professional at least when you're just getting started and getting set up. They can really help you, get your bookkeeping set up, make sure that you're taking all the deductions that you should. If you like bookkeeping, that may be something you want to do yourself going forward. I do because, I just really like to keep tabs on revenue and expenses. However, I send all of that to my CPA at tax time and let them do the return. I don't waste time on that because that's not my forte. So I like to, let the professionals do what they do, kind of outsource what you can and what you can afford to.
Yeah, we're 100% sync in that. I've never understood how somebody, gets into the entrepreneurial world and then thinks they're saving time by doing their own taxes and the whole thing. I too believe you got to do it's easy to do your own bookkeeping just so it doesn't take that much time during the day after you get it set up like in QuickBooks. And then, what costs you money with a CPA is when you just dump a financial mess on them and say, get my taxes done. If you hand them a clean QuickBook files, it's very easy to do, and it allows you to keep tabs on things, day to day with your finances.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you break down this financial security challenge. You kind of look at it along where you're at in the life cycle of your startup, being, a startup early on or a late stage startup. Well, what are some of the key differences you could look at? Your startup
Yeah.
matures into a mature business. What are some of the differences you should do for financial planning?
Yeah. So when you're just starting out, you may have some debt. You may need to borrow. And this is a big part of many startups. So thinking about how can you borrow at the lowest interest rate possible? Again, you can go to a site like finder.com. They've got business loans, and based on your credit, based on your revenue, you want to really compare carefully because there are some loans that are going to cost you a lot more than others. So, really trying to save as much money as you're getting started, you're growing your revenue. And I think, building your your team, whether it's employees or you're looking at 1099 contractors to help you, those are some of the biggest challenges to getting started. It's really funding, and it's making sure that you've got folks that you can rely on to grow as much as you want to grow. Then once your business is more seasoned, you really need to be thinking about an exit strategy. And this is something that a lot of people, maybe get forced into. They build a business and then decide, okay, I'm ready, to move on and do something else. And then they really haven't thought through how they're going to sell this business, what that looks like. So I think if you can think about the exit in the beginning, that can help you with a lot of strategic planning. If you know this is a business that you
Right.
want to sell eventually, you're going to make sure that you're doing a lot of things in terms of bookkeeping and revenue and whatnot, all along to make the business look as good as possible to a potential buyer. So really understanding your exit strategy. I know a lot of people may not want to sell a business. They may think this is going to be a legacy and something they want to pass down to kids and future generations. But really having that strategy in mind is going to go a long way to making sure you're structuring the business the right way as you're growing.
Say, looking at your personal benefits plan, say you've been the careless entrepreneur and you've been in it for 10 years, as you don't have the time value, so much time in your corner anymore, are there any tips you can advise for the, maybe the later stage startup if they haven't been paying enough attention to this on how they
Yeah.
can, build up something in a personal benefits plan?
Yeah, it's never too late to get started. I do think a lot of people, as you said, kind of neglected, and all of a sudden they start getting, maybe middle age or approaching retirement age, and then it becomes a bit of a panic. Don't panic. It's never too late to get started. You can start slowly. There are some really great abilities for folks to invest more. So these are called catch-up contributions. They allow you to put more into a retirement plan once you are over 50. So that's a
The
great
key
option.
thing being you'll still have the tax benefit.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
And it's not to say that you don't want to also save in a taxable brokerage account. But I'm a big fan of the retirement plans because you do get those tax advantages, which is going to save you money, and that may allow you to invest more, in the long run. So don't despair. You may want to work with a financial advisor. If you feel like, hey, I'm really behind here and I need a plan, don't hesitate asking for help from a CFP, a certified professional advisor who can really sit down with you and create a plan. And it may be that there are ways to boost the revenue in your business that may give you more profit and the ability to actually supercharge your retirement
It's not the
investing.
bottom line is you're going to have to be prepared to invest more. If you've waited more, you're going to have to invest more. So
That's it.
that's a challenge. After you get a self-employed benefits plan in place, do you have any tips on, how to maintain it over the long term?
Yeah, I think just the awareness that you need savings, you need insurance, you need all of these pieces, you need the retirement plan, and understanding that this is not going to be a burden once you get it set up. These are going to be really easy to maintain. It's a matter of putting an automatic transfer from your checking account into a retirement plan on whatever cadence you are comfortable with, setting that up, and then literally you can kind of forget it. Once you've got the insurance in place, you may want to review it annually. But I think the inertia to just get these accounts open and get them started, that's the big hurdle. So I will promise you that once you've got them open, they're very easy to maintain. So don't be intimidated about it. Just dig in there, ask questions, do some comparing, and you really can't make a mistake. And a lot of these investing platforms will ask you questions about your risk tolerance. They'll even pick the investments for you, based on the amount of risk that you want or don't want in that portfolio. So They really have made it pretty easy with the kind of robo investing platforms that they're called. Basically, it's the ability for an algorithm to help make your portfolio as tax efficient as possible and keep you on track to the risk profile that you want.
So you get it set up, organized at first, a good common sense plan in place. If you do that effectively, it'll be easy to administer over the long term.
Oh yeah,
Kind of
it's
like
very
bookkeeping, I
easy.
guess.
Yes, it really is. And it's probably less burdensome than bookkeeping because you're really, once you've got it set up, all you need to do is make sure that you're saving maybe a little bit more each year, kind of increasing that savings rate as much as you can. And just, until you can max out a retirement plan, that's really the goal. So, yeah, doing that is a fantastic goal to shoot for. And again, if you don't understand retirement plans or you need help with that, go to a tax professional. They can definitely explain your options and help you get set up.
Well, my each podcast question: what is one thing a podcast listener should do tomorrow morning to get his or her personal finances in better shape, besides buy your
Yes.
book?
Yes. Well, I'd love you to buy Money-Smart Solopreneur, of course. One thing, I would check your savings, check your personal savings. How much do you have in the bank? Are you comfortable with that amount? A good rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses. So if you're a little shy on that, I would make a goal to beef that up this year. Maybe by the end of the year, have it to the level that you want. That's going to give you a lot of, I think, peace of mind, that you've got that financial cushion there. If your business takes some dips and maybe things are, tough for a short period of time, that happens to every business. And, having cash in the bank will help you get through that.
We've always got a plan for worst case scenarios, particularly as entrepreneurs.
That's right. You want to plan for the worst, but we're going to hope for the best.
Well, Laura Adams, we've reached the end of our benefits plan journey here today on the Home Business Podcast. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would love folks to visit finder.com. It's a great place to find a business bank account, shop for different business credit cards, whatever financial products you're looking for. And I would say come join me on the Money Girl podcast. I also have a newsletter called The Money Stack. Would love folks to check that out. They can find that at lauradadams.com.
Laura D. Adams, thanks for joining us today on the Home Business Podcast.
Richard, thank you so much. It's been great being with you.
To learn more about Laura Adams and how you can order her book, Money-Smart Solopreneur, please visit Laura D. Adams, that's LauraDeltaAdams.com, or our podcast website for more information on guests, also finder.com. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at our website, homebusinessmag.com. Subscribe to the newsletter or to the Home-Based Business Startup Guide. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or homebusinessexpo.com. I'm Richard Captain Anderson saying anchors away. We'll talk with you soon. Until then, make it a great personal finances day. Thank you for watching Home Business TV.